Yes, you read that title correctly, and to kick off 2025, I'm taking on a really exciting and slightly nerve-wracking challenge of living on a World War II ration diet for 7 whole days. Now, why did I want to take on a ration challenge diet? Well, to be honest with you, every so often I like to kind of reset myself by exercising a bit of discipline and challenging myself, seeing what I can achieve and seeing what I can put my mind to. And I thought a really good area to target in 2025 would be my nutrition. Because I'm going to be honest with you, with everything being so hectic and rushed, my diet hasn't been that great. So I wanted to give this a go and document every single step of the way to see if my body experiences any notable changes in these 7 days. So to start, what I've done is I've planned out every single meal that I'm going to have from this random Wednesday afternoon all the way through until next Wednesday, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And what's given me a lot of inspiration for these meals is this fantastic little ration book that I've had for quite a few years now. It's called The Favourite Ration Book Recipe by... Who's it by? By Simon Hasseltine. This has basically become my little Bible. Like, I've had so many ideas just from reading this book, and I'm basically basing my entire diet off this and some other bits of research that I've conducted. And next to me, you can see exactly what we're going to be living off. But what would have been a weekly ration diet for a typical UK adult? Well, you'd have had an allowance for 4 ounces of bacon and sausage or bacon and ham. You'd have had 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of cheese, 4 ounces of margarine, 4 ounces of cooking fat, 3 pints of milk, 8 ounces of sugar, preserves, i.e. jam, you'd get £1 every 2 months, so likely around 4 ounces a week. For tea, it would be 2 ounces, which is equivalent to 25 tea bags. You'd get 1 fresh egg, and for sweets, 12 ounces every 4 weeks, which is about 3 ounces a week. Straight away, I'm going to find some things difficult, okay? I already know that, but I have planned this diet out meticulously so that I can truly see if I display any changes. But before we go into further detail, let's break all of this down and ensure that everything has been measured out accurately. So in typical me fashion, we are chronically underprepared for this, but the good news is that last night we did do our big shop, which for those of you that don't know is a UK term used to describe your weekly grocery shopping. So I would hope we would at least have enough food to feed a typical UK adult a weekly ration diet. I guess we're going to find out. Okay, so the first thing is 4 ounces of bacon and sausage. Not each, just 4 ounces in total. So let's see if we can find some meat. Okay, so this all needs to defrost. 2 ounces of butter. So it kind of splits up the butter, margarine and cooking fat. So you're allowed 2 ounces of butter, 4 ounces of cooking fat and 4 ounces of margarine. So let's use my lovely vintage Salter weighing scales to measure all that out. I need a pen and a piece of paper, or otherwise I won't know the difference between, I won't know which is which. And back. I think we can make use of these. It's not a lot. Goodbye, old friend. I'll see you in a week. 4 ounces of margarine. I'm guessing this would be for things like baking. Now for cooking fat, it says I'm allowed to use another 4 ounces, but I tend to use like a spray when I cook. So if that is 4 ounces, I would wager I've got quite a lot of this to use. So I'm gonna go sparingly with it this week anyway, but I'm not gonna go to the trouble of kind of measuring it out because, you know, it's a liquid. I mean, the other thing is I could just try and use my butter or margarine to cook with and not even touch the spray bottle because it's not quite authentic. Yeah, I'll probably just try and use a mixture of the two, but go very sparingly on this if I use it at all. 3 pints of milk. Okay, so I don't really know how I'm gonna keep the milk separate in the fridge because there's a whole jug of it and also this milk bottle's worth, but that is 3 pints worth of milk. So that is my weekly allowance for any milk I use, whether that's in tea or in cooking, but I'm just gonna try and keep that separate in the fridge somewhere. 8 ounces of sugar. That's gonna be a lot, I think. That's gonna be more than enough. Where am I gonna keep all of this? No, it won't fit in my sugar bowls, too much. I'm gonna see if the sugar can go into this lovely little Japanese teacup just for this week so that I've got an easy place to access it. It didn't fit, but don't worry because I have 2. I don't want to spill literally any because We're on rations, I don't want to waste anything. Thank goodness I don't have sugar in my tea. 2 ounces of tea. Now, I've been told a lot in comments that I should be using loose tea leaves. And I know it's really naughty that I'm using tea bags because that wouldn't have been typical in the 1940s when I do make some of my videos of living that kind of lifestyle. So I apologize in advance, but because I've got to go to and from work and I'm going to be on the go a lot, we are going to resort to using tea bags, but I do know that 2 ounces of loose tea leaves would equate to about 25 tea bags. So I'm gonna go get those.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
So that seems like a lot, but listen, I am a hot drink menace, especially when I'm at work. Like, I start every morning with a coffee. Now, there is no coffee here, as you can see, and although there is caffeine in tea, I do wonder how I'll fare not having that first morning coffee to kind of like rejuvenate my soul. So even though this seems like a lot, I can sometimes have 2 hot drinks a day at work and probably the same over the weekend. So we'll see how we go. But I'm doing this thing. I am doing this thing. 1 egg. Just 1 egg. 1 fresh egg. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. I picked a really good one. I could just feel it. There we go, my 1 egg. Cheese. We didn't do cheese. Okay, that's exciting. So it's 2 ounces. 2 ounces of cheese. That was a complete guess. Wow. That's spot on. Oh, wow, is that all? Is that 2 ounces? Are you sure? Oh no, I've got a slither more. Okay, now that's 2 ounces. Okay, bacon sausage is defrosting. Butter we've done, cheese we've done, margarine we've done, cooking fat we've kind of done, milk we've done, sugar we've done, tea we've done, egg we've done. So the next one is preserves, which is like jams and things like that. Now you get £1 every 2 months. What is the math on that? What would that give me a week? So I'm gonna go for about 4 ounces of jam for the week. Because yes, people could preserve their preserves, you know, store it up so they had more. But I think to be fair, we're going to go for about 4 ounces. What was I doing? Preserves, jam. Oh, there we go. Oh, dead on. Dead on. Where am I gonna keep everything? Is there a jar? Is there a spare jar? Oh, yes. Ha ha ha! Every last drop, because this week's gonna be tough enough. Jam. And the last one is sweets. Now I don't really snack that much on sweets, but I do like mints and like sucky sweets and like Werther's Originals and things like that. So a normal British person would have been allowed 12 ounces every 4 weeks. Oh my gosh, here we go again. So I will say about 3 ounces of sweets for the week. Maybe I should have picked a less weighty sweet. But I've gone for mint humbugs, and you know, it's not none. At least I've got something. We are measured. Okay, day 1. Let's be having ya. Time for the not fun bit. I'm now going to weigh myself. I'm not going to tell you what I weigh because I feel like that's my prerogative, but we're going to call my current weight, weight X, and we're just going to see if by the end of only a week on a ration diet, weight X has changed at all. So let's do this. Okay, that is definitely the worst part over. So I have my current weight, and now I can properly start this challenge just to see if I see any changes to my body. So meal number 1 is my breakfast, and it is currently 5 to 1 in the afternoon. Such is the life of a content creator on her 1 day off a week. But we have gone for something very exciting. We've gone for porridge, and we've also gone for an apple. Now with the porridge, I did use a little bit of my milk ration, not as much as I would usually making porridge, like not even close, but the rest is just water. And speaking of water, one thing that I'm not going to be scrimping on during this experiment is my daily water intake. I'm going to keep my water intake the same as I usually would, which will probably do me a lot of favors because it might help to fill me up during this week. It's just plain porridge, really. It's okay, it's warm. I think it's gonna be filling. So, you know, there's that. I think this will probably be my breakfast for most of the week. That's what I envision anyway. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to meal planning anyway. I like to stick to routine. So I'll probably have this for a lot of breakfasts, but maybe just, you know, spice things up a little bit once or twice. That was pleasant. That was very, very pleasant. Now onto my apple. You could cut this up and put it in your porridge if you want to, but I'm just gonna have them separate. Makes the meal last longer. Meal one done, and we're underway. So I'm doing this thing authentic, or at least as authentic as I possibly can be, because the bread that I'm eating right now is actually a 1940s national loaf, which I actually baked today. And if you'd like to see how I did that, then you can watch this video. And I was a little bit naughty because I actually used some of my butter allowance because I really wanted toast with butter and jam. I was craving it. I was absolutely starving. And it's just what I wanted. And so I've used a little bit of my butter allowance, a little bit of my jam allowance, but I tell you, this is filling. It doesn't taste half as bad as I thought it was going to. She's more dense, but she certainly doesn't taste like cardboard. It's funny, you don't waste a thing. Like even jam that's fallen onto my plate, I'm like trying to spoon it up and soak it up with my bread because I don't want to waste anything. Man, I was so hungry. It is like 6 o'clock at night, and because this took so long to bake, that's why I'm having my lunch so late, which is okay because today my mum's going to be back late anyway, so we're going to have a late dinner, which we don't usually do, but that's fine. So yeah, I was really, really, really ready for this. And it was hard not eating for the whole day, like not thinking to myself, I'll just grab a snack. I'll just grab a little snack while I'm waiting for this to bake. No, I'm doing this thing properly, and so I am starving. I'm really full, weirdly, because about 2 seconds ago I was starving. But I'm going to eat every last bit because I know I'll regret it later if I don't. And I also use my first tea bag of my ration allowance and a little bit of milk. Please excuse me eating in bed, but I'm utterly exhausted and I've got to be up very early in the morning for work. But for tonight's dinner, we've got spam hash. Now, it went a bit mushier than intended because annoyingly, I had no fresh tomatoes left. So we had to use chopped tomatoes, tinned chopped tomatoes, which was a bit annoying. And I also had no onions left, so I had to substitute them for mushrooms. I mean, I guess you could argue that people could pick wild mushrooms in the 1940s, but I will be stocking up on tomatoes and onions tomorrow. Other than that, it is potatoes and spam, and that's basically it. So yeah, bon appetit. I'm currently on my way to work, and one thing that I've noticed is that I'm definitely hungrier than I would usually be at this time. We're only on day 2, but I do feel hungrier than usual. I'm not going to be able to have my breakfast until probably about 9:30, which is porridge again. But yeah, hungrier than I usually would be. So I started this day with a nice cup of tea before I dove into work, and then it was porridge and an apple, and for lunch it was garden fresh tomato soup with bread and butter, and it was all very pleasant. So it's the end of day 2, and I've noticed a theme, and that is stodgy, carby, big dinners to kind of keep you going, but eating quite small throughout the day. So I was going to have potatoes in curry sauce, but I had so much spam hash left because I'm only doing this for me, but I made enough spam hash to feed a family of 4, and I don't want to waste anything, that I had spam hash again, and I'll probably have spam hash for my lunch tomorrow and then have a different dinner. But yeah, I actually feel pretty full up. I've been drinking a lot of water, and yeah, I'm ready for bed. So it's day 3, and I don't know if this is like a placebo effect or just because I've had a recent change to my diet, but I feel like I've got a lot more energy. Like last night, I got so much more done than I usually would have, and this morning I found it a lot easier to get up, like I was awake before my alarm even went off. So I'm feeling a lot more energy on day 3, and I'm still hungry, but it's like a manageable level of hunger. So today I've got porridge and an apple for breakfast again. I've got spam hash, leftover spam hash for lunch. So quite a lot of carbs today, a lot of potatoes. But yeah, we'll see how we go. I'm aware that this looks quite pathetic, but I've just got home from work much later than I intended. And the idea of making fish cakes from scratch just absolutely overwhelmed me, which is another kind of learning curve with this experiment of like the fact that everything was made from scratch and that convenience wasn't really a thing. But I just didn't have the energy today, and so we've gone for a National Loaf bacon sandwich with a little bit of my butter allowance and all of my bacon allowance, and a sugary cup of tea because I've still got lots of sugar to play with, and that will hopefully give me a bit of a boost, and one of my sucky sweets just to enjoy as dessert. Hopefully over the weekend, as I've got a bit more time and I'm not at work, I'll be able to make some of the things that I intend to make, like corned beef fritters, fish cakes. I've got lots of fun recipes planned, but for tonight, it is this. So I'm just trying to work out what I should be having today. So I've swapped breakfast. So yesterday I should have had toast and jam, and today should have been back to porridge and an apple, but I've swapped that round. I think I'll make potatoes in curry sauce for today's lunch, and then probably have it again as leftovers for dinner. I'm not really sure. Yeah, something like that. I'm on pretty much my last loaf of the National Loaf bread now, so I'm probably going to make potatoes in curry sauce for a meal today, and then see where I'm at later. But I am putting some sugar in my tea to give me a bit of a pick-me-up, which I wouldn't usually do because I've got a lot of sugar to play with, and although I've got some recipes planned which will probably need sugar, I have got quite a lot, so I'm confident. But yeah, toast and jam, potatoes in curry sauce, maybe that again, and then tomorrow I'm going to be doing a mock roast, which will be very exciting. So it was dinner time that I had the potatoes in curry sauce, and it was really nice, really filling and really tasty. And then on Sunday, I decided to start my day with toast, jam and apple and a cup of tea, which seems to be kind of a standard breakfast for this challenge. And then for dinner, because sadly I did skip lunch, I decided to make a mock Sunday roast. And this was actually really easy. I basically grated some apple. Cooking apples are best actually, which I didn't use, but it did work just as well. And then chopped onion. And the sausage meat is supposed to be fancied into a duck breast shape, which, as we know with these mock recipes, doesn't always pan out exactly as we'd like it to. But basically, you lie the sausage meat out first, and then you top it with the apple and the onions, and then you lay more sausage meat over the top of that, and you're supposed to form a kind of patty, and then you put that in the oven. I think it was for about 40 minutes, and I topped this off with fat-free roast potatoes, some garden peas, and some homemade gravy. And I have to say, it was one of the tastiest meals I've had to date. I mean, fat-free roast potatoes, as recommended by the Ministry of Food, are seriously the way to go. And this was just so comforting and lovely, and it meant that I could still have a roast dinner on a Sunday. I'm very excited about this because in the last 5 days, I have not touched a whisper of chocolate, which is actually a chocolate bar in itself. And so this will be my first sweet dessert, and I'm so ready for it. I can't even tell you. Like I said, I'm not even that much of a sweet tooth, but I can't wait, and I've got a nice cup of tea next to me to enjoy it. So let's go. Oh my goodness me. Oh, the way I've craved that. The sweetness is kind of hitting me like a train because I've had nothing sweet, but yeah, she's very nice. I think I needed her for the end of the week. You know, I needed a pick-me-up, and she's doing that. I feel like I'm not going to eat for like the next week. Day 6 was pretty standard, but I finished it off with some corned beef fritters, which were very, very tasty and very, very filling. So it's the day before the last day of the 1940s ration challenge. Today I just have porridge and an apple again, and then soup and bread. And then tomorrow will be my last day, so I'm thinking I'm going to do something kind of fun. I'm going to use my only egg. That will be exciting. And we're going to end the day with fish and chips, which I'm really excited about. And then when I got to work, the temptation was rife, as 2 different people had bought in chocolate cake to celebrate a retirement, and I couldn't have a single slice. But what I did get was a nice big helping of carrot soup for lunch, which I had with a couple of slices of bread and butter. Dinner in bed again tonight, which I feel like I might get quite judged for, but I've had a very long day, and tonight it is a baked potato with all of my cheese ration, because I thought, why not? We're almost at the end of this challenge. I might as well use all of my cheese ration, and I've used a bit more of my butter ration. I just wanted something hearty and warm. So yeah, This is tonight's dinner. So here we are, the final day of the World War II Ration Challenge diet. And I can definitely see why people would be early risers and queue for a very long time to collect their weekly rations, because this is all that I've got left. So I've got 11 tea bags left. I've got this much sugar, which isn't so bad, but I did sacrifice some of this to make the uncooked chocolate cake. I have my 1 egg, which I'm very excited about, and I will be making use of that very soon. I have this much jam, but don't forget you would only get preserves like once every couple of months. This much margarine and this much bread. And technically I should have no bread left because it asked for 6 ounces of breadcrumbs for the chocolate cake, but I really wanted egg and soldiers for my breakfast on the last day, so I put aside 2 slices, so I only used 4 ounces of breadcrumbs, so this should technically be nothing. I've got this much margarine, I have no butter left, no milk, no meat, I have like a couple of sweets left, and that is pretty much it. So by now I would be very ready to go and collect the next batch of rations. But rather than focusing on this too much, I'm going to start my day with egg and soldiers, which I have been hankering for a while now and I'm very, very excited about. I've been craving this so bad. I need a spoon. That was so worth it. Okay, so moment of truth. I'm now going to weigh myself to see if my body has displayed any changes in the 8 days that I've been on this ration diet, because I've worked out that it's actually 8 days, not 7. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So today is the 8th day. So let's see what the scales have to say. Wow. Okay, so here is the reveal. In only 8 days and not changing my activity level or exercise regime at all, which to be honest at the moment is kind of non-existent, I've lost a grand total of 5 pounds, which I'm pretty impressed with, to say how much sugar I've been having in my tea lately. I just want to wind down and talk about the last 7-8 days of this challenge, because later I will be far too busy enjoying my ration-free fish and chips. But I feel like this challenge has taught me a lot about my relationship with food, particularly cooking. And it's made me realise that I probably don't cook from scratch enough. And my thing that I tend to reach for is convenience. And a lot of that, of course, is because I'm busy a lot of the time. I go to work and I have various other responsibilities within my week. Of course, I'm working hard to make content around my main job, which can be a real big challenge within itself. And so I think I do tend to reach for convenience. Obviously, you know, me and my mum will cook meals that will then last us for evenings to come. You know, we'll eat leftovers quite often. But when it comes to cooking from scratch, I don't do that quite as often as I'd like to. You know, the idea of even just peeling potatoes or chopping onions when it's like 7 o'clock at night, you know, I'm usually void of energy by that point. So that has definitely been a challenge. How close is that plane? That sounds so close. Goodness gracious, 84 years ago, that would have been pretty terrifying to hear. Also, I've gotten used to feeling hungry throughout the day. It's not an unmanageable level of hunger, but I do feel hungry. And where I may have just grabbed a snack, I've kind of had to discipline myself to kind of work my way through the hunger before I can have my next meal. Sucky sweets help with that a bunch. It made me very conscious about what I was eating and what I was actually putting into my body. And I think cooking from scratch really helped with that, because you know exactly what is going into your food. And because everything was planned out and I was very organized with it, I was really, really conscious about what I was actually eating. And I was kind of forced to be inventive because I had so little to work with. It made me not waste. I didn't waste a morsel of food. Like every inch of food I was scraping to make sure I used all of it. And that's something that is a take-home point for me. that I didn't waste a thing. Like anything that I didn't use or I had too much of would have been used the next day and the next day. And anything that was going to go off or go out of date, I made sure I used first. So I was a lot more conscious about not throwing literally anything away, which I think is something I'd like to adopt a lot more in my life in general. No coffee was a challenge, but although I did miss that first morning coffee, I think I realised that I don't need as much caffeine as I'm consuming. There is caffeine in tea, of course there is, but still I only drank about 2 cups of tea a day. I mean, I've got 11 tea bags left, so you do the math, because I definitely can't. And I didn't miss my caffeine intake, so that was, you know, a bonus. There's not a lot of protein in a ration wartime diet, that's one thing I've realised. There's a lot of carbohydrates in the evening, which makes sense because they're slow burning, so they keep you going, but there is a distinct lack of protein. Or maybe that's just the recipes that I was choosing, but from the recipe book that I followed, meat wasn't on the menu a lot of the time. It's an inventive way to live. I really enjoy the mock versions of meals that don't necessarily taste like what they're supposed to be, but they tasted really good, and it's nice to be a little bit more creative in the kitchen. That's another thing that I'd like to adopt a little bit more. I'm not a sweet tooth, but I didn't miss chocolate as much as I thought I would. The ration diet gave me a lot more energy, which I did not expect. I had more energy in the last 8 days than I usually do. I could stay up later, I could get up earlier, I had the drive to get more things done, and that was a really big surprise. And I don't really know the science behind that, but that is something I noticed. I just feel more energized in general. A lot of the stuff that you're working with is fresh ingredients, and I think that has improved the quality of my skin. I think it's improved my overall energy levels, like I said before, and I think it's probably improved my body. I mean, I have lost weight, which isn't necessarily a measure of health, but I do feel better for it. It showed me that you can cook with fresh ingredients and make inventive meals that will last a really long time and all on a budget. And that is genuinely invaluable. And it has reminded me to remain ever so grateful that my fridge is full and that my pantry is stocked, because that is not the case for so many people. And although it may feel like food is ever available, particularly in the Western world, that tends to be cheap, fast food. And the idea of cooking more organically sometimes feels like something that only the privileged can do. But this has shown me that it can be accessible to more people, and that I should feel so grateful that I have an abundance of food and that I am not going hungry. I've thought about that a lot recently. And finally, it has taught me to be disciplined, and I like exercising a bit of discipline every once in a while, setting myself a challenge, seeing it through to fruition, and I've done it. I have lived 8 days on a World War II ration diet, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm honoured to be able to share that journey with you. And maybe along the way, you've picked some ideas up of your own that you can go and try that might benefit you in the kitchen. But yeah, the biggest thing is that I'm going to walk away with a sense of pride that I said I was going to do something, and I went and bloody did it. And then you absolutely know what time it was. It was time to head down to my local chippy. Okay, here we go. This marks the end of 8 days on a World War II ration diet, and we are finishing the week with nice traditional fish and chips, which I've been so excited about and have not stopped banging on about. But as well as celebrating the end of this challenge, this is a twofold celebration, because we are also celebrating 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I think emotional, which I'm really overwhelmed by. So here's to challenges in the future, or challenges in the past that we have all overcome. I love you dearly, and yeah, I'm going to enjoy this.